Tim is a Maltese guy from south of Malta. I had a bunch of stuff shipped to his house because I needed a place to send things. Went into Malta to pick him up, and he came out to hang out on the boat. And his mother decided to, Timmy, you can't go without bringing him food.
This is ftira. So it's potatoes, rosemary, fennel, Maltese sausage, which I challenge you to find a better sausage in the world anywhere.
And this is baked rice.
Baked rice, some classic Maltese stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's your mother's name?
Cora.
Cora? I'll tell Cora thank you very much. Arriving in Malta and having Tim, a contact here in Malta, kind of takes me back to the couch surfing days where I would be staying with locals in their own house, and you immediately get to a country and then you're positioned within the local community to some degree because you're with a local. The main hurdle to being a digital nomad is lack of community because we are social animals, we're human. There's times in life where that trade-off is worth it, 100%, and it's necessary. But for longevity of nomadicism, time on the road, you need to develop some sort of type of community in your own way. Loneliness on the road is the thing that I always warn people about when they ask me about getting into van life or getting into digital nomadicism. It's the first thing I say is like, listen, be careful. I know it seems like the dream and it seems like it's paradise and it's really awesome, but it has its challenges that are not small. If you're willing to deal with that, then do it, but it's important to know that, and not a whole lot of people talk about that. If you're wanting to be sustainable long-term, then you have to have some sort of community. Being on the sailboat, have people come out onto the boat for periods of time and then leave, that creates a sense of community and a micro-community. The modern world that we live in is not community-focused, and because of that, we have the opportunity to build our own communities, and with the internet, it makes that actually possible.
Sunday tomato and basil, rosemary and...
We're anchored here with our friend Zebulon. They were stuck in Tunisia during the whole quarantine, so we got to know them. They're part of the Tunisian sailor community that we are a part of. And they sailed to Malta the same day that we sailed to Malta. Danny is a good sailor. He sailed across the Atlantic both ways single-handed. He's a badass. So we're gonna do a little experiment with tying to shore. I've tried it out once before. And it worked mediocre, but Danny over there on Zebulon has given me some tips. Is it necessary? Probably not. Is it a lot of work? Probably, but I think it'll be fun. First things first, find a spot to tie this, what's this thing called, strap to. There's a lot of anchorages that you're only able to stay in if you tie ashore, so it's a good skill to know. And I've avoided anchorages in the past where you have to tie to shore because I wasn't confident in how to do it. The rope's only going to chafe if you're running the rope from the boat around a rock and back to the boat. If you run the rope to a rock and tie it around a rock and set it up correctly, then in theory there's very little to no chafe. Our boat's just on anchor and it's pointed into the wind, so it's really far away from shore, but luckily we have these giant ropes that came with the boat that we can take to shore and then winch the boat into shore. Just making this up as I go. Yeah. Going to need to put out more anchor chain here in a minute. Just pulling the boat in. Getting there. We'll get there eventually. So we brought the boat over with one line so that it was lined up, and then we set a second line and then balanced the boat out. I don't know if you can tell, but this is like a ton of rope just like through the cockpit here. And there's still, between what's in the cockpit, what's out there, there's still probably half in the dinghy. So I was just talking to Danny over there and he's like, you could probably just cut. That all went perfectly according to plan. It worked out great. After we got that whole situation sorted.
Tortuga incoming.
Andy and Karina. They came from Tunisia as well. There's a lot of problems in life situations where being completely alone is bad. The online connectivity does wonders for that problem, but it doesn't do enough. A lot of people will think that it will completely subsidize the need in all of us to be social, and it does help. It's also not enough for it to be long-term sustainable, especially whenever things get hard. That is something that is not talked about enough in the Western world, is that when things get difficult in life, you lose your job, whatever, anything like that, when things get difficult, what matters is your network. Who are your friends and who are your family, because they are going to be the ones that are going to help you through it. Spend some time with them for a few days. We got to celebrate my birthday with them and some other sailors here in Malta who were all from Tunisia, so that was really fantastic. Spent some time teaching Jackson how to free dive. Let me give this microphone over to Jackson. Oh, Jackson.
Oh, hello there. So growing up, I liked being in the water, and I would spend a lot of time like diving down to the bottom of swimming pools and like jumping off like the highest diving board that were allowed, and like swimming lessons and whatnot growing up. So like I liked the water, but I hadn't done any sort of free diving training whatsoever. Coming back to the boat and seeing the difference of what Dylan was able to do before free diving training and after, that was definitely really interesting. Almost had it. I just started to panic. And it was kind of alarming at first to like have him go into the water and to just like disappear for a chunk of time. It's just like, is he gonna come back up? And obviously he did. But it's like a really practical skill if you have a boat. It made it really clear that there was definitely some learning to be done and that it would be a practical skill to acquire. So I was definitely really excited to start the training. We were going to have people come out to the boat, essentially give Dylan a refresher course and get me started. But before that happened, Dylan sat me down and put me through some breath exercises to kind of get me prepared for what to expect. The progress you make on the first day, just getting through the mental hurdle of what exactly you're capable of on a single breath hold, like opens the doors so much. It's mind-blowing because you kind of realize exactly what you're capable of in that sense. And it isn't like a physical thing as much as it is just getting over the mental part. It's just getting over that barrier is like the biggest hurdle to start off with, and then from there is where like the physical training comes in. If you don't have the proper technique and you can't hold your breath that long, you're kind of stuck to the surface. You don't have like the perspective of going down. You're constantly up looking down. You can be in a place your whole life and look at things the exact same way, and then one day you decide to look at things from a slightly different perspective and suddenly it looks totally different. And like your understanding of the space you're in or this idea is just something else entirely. Being able to dive deeper gives you that. Like suddenly the surface isn't something you're stuck to. It's like something you can like look up at, like the sky.
The surface goes from being a barrier to being a door.
The surface goes from being a barrier to being a door. That's a cool way to think about it. It was a really rewarding experience, and I think the reason why it's so rewarding is because you first of all learn that like the discomfort you're trying to overcome isn't insurmountable. Like yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's like a trip to the dentist is way worse. And people do that all the time. That's just like a part of daily life. I don't know. I think there was definitely some reluctance because I knew that it was going to involve some sort of discomfort. A part of free diving is learning to be comfortable having more carbon dioxide in your lungs than you're used to. That's the biggest hurdle, is learning that discomfort isn't your body saying that you need to breathe. It's just, this is foreign, this is different. I always really resonated with, you need to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Thank you for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing and consider sharing this video with the first friend that comes to your mind. Send them this video. If you really love what we do, then consider clicking the link in the description and supporting on Patreon. Big love. Goodbye.